this conference, all the way from Sweden. Professor Frank, Tatiana, and Pedro is not here for accompanying me, and Juan Pablo. It has been a very nice experience being in Bogota. So I am Tarun Agrawal, working as an associate professor at Chalmers University of Technology. I don't know if many of you know, it is a university located in Gothenburg, Sweden. Gothenburg is the head office or headquarters location for Volvo, so you might connect Volvo trucks, and also SKF. So quite a industry-driven city. And so most of our projects and what we do are kind of very industry-centric, applied research. Today, I will talk about one of the work which is ongoing currently on the topic automation to augmentation, and how we can embrace the human element when we talk about AI implementation in supply chain. This work has been done in collaboration with Auburn University in USA and the team at Chalmers and Auburn. We are together trying to collect data and understand how the industry can embrace this AI transition while not just considering the positive part of AI, but also considering the challenges, or what we say, the darker side of AI, and how we can make ourselves ready for the future. So in the presentation, we will try to cover, I will try to give you a little overview about the challenges which are faced by the supply chain currently, and what is supply chain digitalization, and how we are embracing AI in supply chain, followed by how the AI has evolved and what made it so prominent that we are using it so much frequently than we used to do it before. And then we conducted a Delphi-based study, which I will try to share some result of that, initial results. And finally, the conclusion and future research direction. As we all know, and sitting here, most of us are working in logistics or directly or indirectly, and we know that supply chain has been facing a lot of issues. The first and the foremost topic here is global tension and trade disturbances. And you can see every day, whenever you wake up in the morning or when you open a news channel, you see there is a news where there is a conflict, a trade war, and which directly impact the supply chain. The climate change is prominent, and we could see that it has impacted not just the people, but also the supply chain. And the technologies, we have so many new technologies, the development of software and moreover the hardware, the processors, the memory, storage has increased exponentially over the year, which enabled so many technology, introduced so many technology, and at the same time has actually created threat from cyber security. As always, we need transparency and traceability in the supply chain. Labor shortages and skill gap. Yesterday I was here discussing about the honey which is locally made and sourced, and we were discussing about the issue of how the skills which the farmers or the honey keepers or beekeepers are currently having, and how it is in a trend that it might not be passed on to the next generation. And it's also prominent in bigger industries because there are a lot of skill gaps, and we need to prepare for the future. Global logistics, bottleneck. There are also demand volatility, customer expansion. Expectations are actually kind of varying every day. And then we, as usual, need more resilience and efficiency and we are always struggling to get a balance between them. So one of the solutions I think we have, when I was looking at the presentations, a lot of the presentation focused on digitalization, and we could see that digitalization is all about visualizing the supply chain not in a linear form, but rather more in a distributed decentralized network where we can actually plan and whatever processes of the supply chain, plan, source, produce, fulfill, design, and service, we cannot do it individually as one actor in the supply chain. Rather, we have to work in a collaborative, interconnected manner so that we can be ready for the future and we can better cater to the customer. And digitalization here helps with different technologies to enable this decentralized or distributed connected network of supply chain. And when we talk about digitalization, it's when we see that digitalization is digitization, data is connected, the data is then connected to form and certain information. And then this information in the third step convert into insights, and finally you get to get recommendation or actionable insights from the data. So these are the steps when we talk about digitalization. And historically, we have a lot of research on RFIDs for collecting the data, sensors. We have also blockchain for connecting securely and for traceability of data. And then we have a lot of decision support system and dashboards which we were using for gaining insights from the data. And finally, a lot of AI model. But currently, what we could see that the AI has actually made it possible to actually implement or use in all these kind of steps of digitalization. And how it has impacted the supply chain? We all know that now with the AI tool, we could actually have better demand forecasting, which can make predictive and prescriptive analysis to reduce over and understocking. It will also have huge impact on warehousing, and you might have seen examples from Amazon and different warehouses which are completely automated, where order picking used to be a very big problem, and now it's kind of almost automated. And then logistic optimization, route planning, and real-time tracking, which is actually quite very well enabled by use of AI. And procurement and supply chain risk management. With AI model, it's now becoming more and more easier not to just depend on the Excel sheets, but rather have models which can give you predictions of how the supply chain or the supplier will behave, or what kind of disruption which can occur in the future. And then the customer services. This is very prominent, and we all must have experienced the AI chatbot. That nowadays, for the customer interaction, most of the companies, instead of having an executive or a customer care person, more moving towards AI chatbot. And if you look into the trends, here I have listed down top from the Gartner report, the top 10 supply chain 2024, and all of them in 2024 have already started embracing AI, and they have started kind of adapting in different ways. The most initial and the most, I would say, the low-hanging fruit or the most easy way was to have this chatbot, and where they can actually use it for their procurement or handling with customer interaction. And you could also see there are a lot of technologies companies which are prominently, or they are forerunner in developing these technologies for AI, that can actually enable AI transition. Similarly, in 2025, the trend has actually the last report was talking more about just using chatbot, but now they are actually in full-fledged. Many companies have started adopting, embracing AI algorithm and AI technologies in their digital transition and transformation, and which has actually given them edge over the other. And you can see here Sennheiser Electronics app, which was not there earlier last year, has actually came to the top within the top actually supply chain of 2025, making significant automation and use of generative AI. And similarly, when we talk about In this conference, we are talking a lot about short supply chain and local production, which is now becoming quite a trend now because most of the company, most of the government or most of the industries are now moving from globalization to more localization. So this short supply chains would be very prominent, not just in the food or agriculture industry, but even in the automotive and heavy industry sector, where they would like, or the industry would like to have everything within a certain close geographical location. And it has also a lot of impact from AI, from local decision making to resilience, gaining more resilience, and then transparency and accountability. AI can also enable better policy making because it can enable or it can give the edge on understanding what are the local scenarios or local impact which would have on the supply chain, and that would actually make many recommendations or predictions about the future policies. And you can have digital inclusion. We all have currently are in touch with technologies empowered by mobile smartphones and many other technologies. So which has also given a huge kind of edge. Now we can reach out to local farmers and more people and include them in this journey towards digitalization. And then we can have enable micro-logistic optimization, help in predictive maintenance, and dynamic route planning. So the, we were talking about, and when I started, I said that AI has gained a lot of pace recently. And why it happened, if you see this, and I like this diagram a lot because a lot of people talk about AI, ML, and then machine learning, deep learning, neural networks, and then currently a lot on LLM model. It gives a very good overview what actually everything about. So the bigger picture is, or the bigger set is here, the artificial intelligence, AI, which actually existed quite long ago. We had it in 1950, 1960. The AI was still there, but we were not using it so much. And we have machine learning models, we have neural networks, and if you see the timeline, it was very here in 2020s, or I would say precisely 2017, when there was the introduction of transformers. If you know a little bit about AI programming and the AI models, it was here when 2017 the transformer was introduced, which exponentially reduced the processing of AI and the algorithm enabled more better prediction, but also then made more generative AI, where the AI is not just prescribing, but also developing new recommendations and new results. And that's was just the beginning, and you can see till today we have so many new development, and the technology is actually growing very fast. And many companies are working and developing different algorithms. And we all use ChatGPT and different chatbot for different purposes. And this transformer, as I said, has enabled natural language processing. So it has given or empowered users who had also limited technological know-how or expertise can now actually interact with the AI model and develop their own AI tool. So it gives you a most no-code, low-code tool, and it's more you have more sophisticated language understanding. So you all, and we all know here in the room, that now we can, even without knowing the coding, we can develop some AI algorithm. We can even generate an agent in the ChatGPT, which would act just like us by actually giving our data. And you can have a lot of new innovation, which can actually enable the human from ordinary repetitive tasks. But at the same time, now when we talk about all this benefit, we have to not forget what will be the consequences when we implement this AI in the supply chain, and what will be the other side of it, or the dark side, or the negative side. So this is one of the examples where we try to list down how the automation and what we say augmentation is more about enabling, empowering humans to make better decisions using AI rather than just automating things. So it's kind of, in future, we are moving towards more from automation towards more human augmentation, where we will, the AI or the machine learning, supervised machine learning would give us more scenarios where we can actually make, based on that, make more decisions and better decisions. So to understand these darker side or challenges, we did a Delphi study. The Delphi study is basically an iterative survey technique where you start with open-ended question. You ask the experts from the industry about a new and emerging topic, and then around 20 of those experts, and then you collect the response, you compile them, and then send it back to them, and ask them if they would like to make further changes to it and improve it. So that's about, it's an iterative, and when they are actually interacting, they are anonymous, so they don't know who are the other experts who are actually participating in this study. So it avoids the adverse effects, and it related to if you have a dominant personality in the group, and sometimes if you do a group discussion, if a dominant personality or an extrovert person has this, that if they are speaking a lot, the group tend to merge to their response or their opinion. But thereby, with being an anonymous, you avoid that. And then it helped in reaching a consensus, gaining valuable insight on expert opinion. So we collected simultaneously, and it's still ongoing, selected senior supply chain researcher from Sweden and from US. And we invited around 50, and 20 of them agreed to participate. And we have done 2 rounds of iteration with them of this data collection. And they represent various kind of industries, and 20 participants were recommended by the range of the Delphi study. So the first few outcome which we got, when we asked the expert an open-ended question, what do you perceive? How do you perceive AI? What is your opinion about AI? And how it will impact the supply chain? So there, we could see that the experts, also the industry people, do not see AI as something which will automate and remove or eliminate humans, but rather it will aid decision making. And it's a step towards automation and provide more cognition-based machine learning and large language model. And it will, future, AI will support managers and their activities. And it will require, but at the same time, it will require a lot of understanding about what you have been doing, and it will remove the repetitive tasks and support specific human skills such as critical thinking. So these are something which they were pointing out are the skills which we have to now work more when we move towards future. And some of the positive impact, definitely it's very, very prominent that you have, as we were discussing, easy risk signaling, you can have forecasting, better negotiation opportunities, you can have increased human development, you can early, as I said, you can just not predictive but prescriptive, so you can actually identify way in advance the disruption before it happens. And also, you can have the ability to respond quickly by analyzing the data. And then the autonomous vehicles, which we are actually currently experiencing, and robots are facilitating supplier and robots are already in existence, and these are facilitating interaction among other tasks, no-touch processes, and support organizational tasks and improve efficiency. But when we talk about competitiveness in the age of AI and what type of new capabilities and skills would people need, So their opinion was the operational role will now more shift to the monetary role. So in the future, the managers will not be just doing the repetitive task, but rather it would be more monitoring and kind of as a supervising task where they could actually understand the process, let AI do the certain tasks which are repetitive, which are operational, but then move towards more monetary role. And human move to more oversight and expectation, exception handling. You will have low-end customer interaction tasks which will be automated, and we have seen this as a prominent example in the chatbot, that where you have to have a customer care executive, rather now the AI chatbot collects all the data and make it process automated. And then you have human monitoring. Human will become more monitors and improvers rather and play more strategic role while in the automation. And technology will increase human creativity, and the focus will be more on innovation and adopting more proactively this technology. And it will enhance traditional automation rather than replacing it with redefining its potential. So the automation, in future, the managers will have to upskill or reskill, and they would be more kind of embracing or kind of playing as a more augmented role, and rather than replacing automation, they will be redefining its potential, the AI potential. But at the same time, we have to understand that there will be a lot of risk associated with this. And when we ask the expert about the risk, one is a very prominent risk, that the cyber security. We have to work towards more cyber security. The more data we are talking about here and more AI model, the cyber security will become a much bigger issue. And there would be a decline in certain manual skills. So what will be the new skills which we have to focus on? And with misuse and dependency on the technology, now we have also seen examples where we are trying to misuse the technology, which will become, and in future we have to prepare ourselves and be ready to avoid this dependency on the technology, which would actually impact not just the operations or the functioning in the supply chain, but also the human brain it's impacting. And it is, we have to face poorly developed algorithm, and we have to also, which could actually lead to a lot of disruption in the other way around. There are always ethical concerns which need to be addressed, and how we can use, to what extent AI should be used. And then the black box syndrome. We have to understand you should not just use the tool which you have been provided, rather try to understand what is behind what algorithm is going on. So if we use this, rely too much on AI, it will lead to a black box syndrome, that where we are not understanding what is the AI, what the algorithm, how it is working. We are totally becoming dependent on that, which will actually have an adverse effect, where we would be, if there is a new type of change or disruption which the AI model is not trained on, we will not be able to solve that problem. So, and it's also important to align it with the organizational strategy and goal. There will be more disruptions and loss of operational resilience, ethical violations, reduced improvisation, and poorly built algorithm, and we will only be able to nurture and maintain what we constantly face. We will lose some skills. And there will be certain barriers. We would need quality data, which has always been a challenge in the industry, and how we can integrate those data in the algorithm. And now when we are doing this research, and I work in the area of information management and digitalization, a huge problem, and which is always prominent in supply chain, is data sharing. Most of the industries don't want to share their data with the other actors. And in future, with these algorithms, it will become more and more prominent that the companies would like to not just trade the product, but rather would also like to have some monetary gain from the data. And there will be a lot of data sets and security issues which has to be overcome. And geopolitical dynamics, which will actually have to develop a lot of digital ethics and concerns which will be raised when we actually implement this AI. So in the end, when we did this, we tried to make a list of capabilities and skills which we, from the input from the experts, and see what are these capabilities. So the experts pointed out that the data literacy and security will be a new type of skills or capabilities, sorry, which has to be taken care in the future, which the organization have to develop these type of capabilities. They have to have informed decision making and ethical framework around which they can actually use this AI tool. So they have to develop capabilities for ethical use of data and ethical reasoning. There would be a lot of demand, which has always been there, for collaboration, but also collaboration in terms of technology. We always get to hear that our system don't talk to the other system in the logistics, but in future we have to have platforms or technologies, which are currently a lot of companies are offering, or there are a lot of research is going on, so that the different systems can be connected and made into a big supply chain system, which need a cross-functional coordination. We also need technical knowledge and intuition, because as I said, we do not need repetitive operational knowledge, but rather more technical, strategic knowledge, which is more from intuition and from the experience working in the industry, working in the field. Knowing the field, having the domain knowledge will be very important. And negotiation and supply relationship building, we will need algorithms or AI, and we have to also think how we negotiate. If we too much rely on the AI, we do not want buyer-supplier or the partner relationship to be formed on the contracts which are mechanically developed rather than having any empathy or any human interaction. We will lose, and we have to work on these capabilities. That certainly we will lose muscle memory. If someone has the experience, a very good example, driving a manual car and driving an automated car. So if you experience someone has done both, you know that you have a certain muscle memory when to change the gear. And when the automation, if you have only driven automated car, you don't have that muscle memory. Similarly, in the air, you will not have certain tasks which should vanish, and you have to kind of adapt to the new ones. Agility and process innovation, we will lose certain agility and certain process innovation. We can lose quick reply in improvisation, and the loss of relations or transactional focus. The tech will move faster, and one need to be able to understand the different opinion and cross collaboration. And then the rules of the IT, as I said, the domain knowledge, the IT people, the ones who are developing the algorithms and making these AI tools, do not have the domain knowledge. So we, as a supply chain expert, will have that responsibility in future to actually make these algorithms work better for the supply chain. And when you have, and if you have to, in order to better understand, you have to be able to understand what is going on behind this black box. So the tech seldom aware of the rules and the business need, so you will need the domain knowledge. And decision maker will be still up to human. We will not have fully, the decision making will not shift fully to the machine, but rather it will be a collaboration between machine and human. And then in terms of skills, there would be certain skills which would be very much required, like contextual reasoning, data literacy, technology literacy, curiosity and lifelong learning, because we have to actually learn, keep learning, because if you see the technology and the growth, how it is going, is quite exponentially high, and we have to embrace it. And we have to be curious always. We have to act as a safeguarding, because we have to make sure that what we do not have an adverse effect on others or our other partners. Ethical reasoning, critical thinking, I think I don't have to explain. Analytical thinking, system thinking, and most of your empathy and cybersecurity and communication skills. So these are some capabilities and skills which we kind of summarized from our first round. And now we will be working more towards classifying them, clustering them, and making some more models to see how and when these skills would be relevant in which scenario. So in conclusion, AI holds the potential, and we all know that will radically transform the supply chain. But we have to not just look into the positive side of the AI when we are actually talking about AI, but also on the other side, or the darker side of the AI, where we have to also embrace and the change. At the same time, upskills, reskill ourselves, and be ready for the future. And these type of hype is always there, and the supply chain, and currently we could see that it has been gaining pace, where the companies are now started understanding not just the AI, but also how to get human or the workforce ready for the AI. And this would enable human augmentation rather than automation in the AI. At the same time, we have to be ready for the risks and challenges for the future. As we pointed out certain risks, and there could be more risks which will come up in the future. But we have to co-create with this AI, and not just be a passive interacting with the AI. We would have human roles, as I said, more monitoring, ethical oversight, and exception handling, rather than doing more operational work. And finally, in future, we would have to work and understand and address this black box syndrome, where we should not just rely completely on AI and do not understand what is happening inside. We have to upskill and prioritize skills for the human. And in long term and high AI autonomy is very critical that ethical frameworks are in place and clearly defining the responsibility. And examining organizational strategies, because that will also become quite important, that you just not adopt or buy or implement any AI tool, but rather make sure what goes best with the business model or the product which you are offering in the market, so that the AI strategies actually align well with your organization as well as your supply chain strategy. And identify and classify processes for automation. What process would you like to automate? And you think that the computer or the AI algorithm would be more better to work in decision making, but where you have to augment, or where you have to have a process where the impact of a wrong decision making could have high consequences, and you will still keep that decision making intact with the human and the skill operator, I would say. And then develop resilient, this will develop resilient and strategies to prevent over-reliance on technology. So we should not be over-reliant on the technology, that in future, that will become a huge disruption, that we are not ready. If a day when the power switch off or the AI tools is not working, then we don't know what to do as a next step. So we have to learn and know what we are doing, at the same time use AI more effectively. You can scan this QR code to connect with me over LinkedIn. Thank you so much for listening to me, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to present our research work. Thank you so much.